Welcome to the Value Driven Brand Podcast, where you'll learn insights on how to communicate with authenticity, deliver genuine value, and create a memorable experience across your entire customer journey, helping your business become the sought-after leader in your industry. I'm your host, Aileen. Now, on to the show. G'day everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Value Driven Brand Podcast. I am your host, Aileen Day, and today I am joined by an absolutely fantastic and just insatiable amount of knowledge guest. Her name is Dr. Jenine Beekhuyzen, and she is the owner and founder of the Tech Girls Movement Foundation. And I know every week I say that I've got a special guest, but Jenine, ever since I met her, I have been fangirling all over her work and her initiatives and everything that she does in her organization. And we're going to learn a little bit more about her, but let me introduce her. Jenine is an OAM. That's right. She's that important. She's a futurist who believes that existing structures in technology and industry must change in order to serve tomorrow's digital landscape, and that our children's future job prospects depend on it. I couldn't agree more. Her focus is on leadership, innovation, and education to champion Australian tech entrepreneurship and address the necessary rebalancing of gender roles within the traditionally male-dominated STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths space. Jenine, thank you so much for joining me today. It is so awesome. I'm looking forward to learning more about what you do, how you do it, why you do it.
Thank you so much for the introduction.
I think you went on mute. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jenine. How are you going?
Oh, thanks, Aileen, for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you about all things STEM and advocacy and young people today, and value-driven brands, most importantly.
I can't wait. So, I've given everyone a little bit of a snapshot as to what you do, but I always do love to hear the backstory. What got you to creating the Tech Girls Movement Foundation?
Great question. And I guess I get bored pretty easily, to be honest. And Tech Girls came from a passion that I had. I worked with young people for a really long time around giving girls awareness and exposure around STEM careers. So particularly in IT, that's my background, is in technology. So trying to give young people opportunities to see what their potential is and unlock that so they can actually solve the world's biggest and most important problems. And so I guess I've been doing it part-time for a long time, volunteer. And that's, I guess, where the OAM came from, sort of 10,000 hours of volunteering, I guess is one way we can think about it.
Wow.
And then I decided to turn it into something a bit more substantial. And here we are 8 years later, which is not bad for a not-for-profit, starting with no capital, not really a lot other than a real passion. But 8 years later, we've got a great team and we've reached more than 10,000 girls across Australia and New Zealand with hands-on programs.
That is so amazing. So when you say hands-on programs, what are the kind of programs that you're working on with them?
Yeah, mostly it's design thinking. So we go into schools, we run one-day workshops where girls get the opportunity to find a problem they care about in their local community. They research how other people have tried to solve it. They then design their own solution and they build an app, and then they pitch it back to everyone in the audience. And we do that over one day. We do it over a weekend, and we also do it over a 12-week period, which we're doing right now. We have about 600 girls across Australia and New Zealand in their 5th week of our 12-week program right now, and they're all building apps to solve problems in their community they care about. And the beauty of that is they all come from such different places that they all solve such different problems in so many unique and interesting ways.
That is so fantastic. And you said, so you do Australia and New Zealand, and do you find that is there any similarities, or is there differentiation between, those community challenges and concerns really different between the two countries?
There's certainly in the last couple of years been a lot more talk about mental health and managing our own, anxiety and other, personal challenges. So certainly we've seen a spike in that. But a lot of the solutions are very geographically based. So for instance, we might have a team in New Zealand who have an app to help manage if we have a disaster for, say, a volcano or some sort of natural disaster, whereas obviously in Australia we wouldn't necessarily have something quite like that. But then we have, for instance, we had regional girls in North Queensland who created an app to report domestic violence anonymously in their community, because that's what they were seeing every day, in their street, and they wanted to do something about it. So it's stuff that young people really care about, and they want to find their own way to create a solution for it.
Isn't that so fascinating? So this is actually the key to what you do as part of the Tech Girls movement. It's not just about the fact that you're teaching them how to operate and to set up a business or an entrepreneurship, but you're also creating, they are also creating apps to support those solutions, aren't they?
Absolutely. And it's truly beautiful to see them find something they care about and just run with it. And we don't often get that opportunity in our, traditional education system. We're often told the topics we need to study and the problems we need to think about. Whereas the thing that works for our program is the girls get to pick any problem at all they care about, anything at all. We've had, from having this thing called a shark fin, when you put your hair up in a ponytail and you get this thing down the middle. We had girls wanting to solve the shark fin because they cared so much about it. I don't care. That's great. They're working together. They care. We've got others trying to solve global warming, but got extremes, but it's all about getting them motivated to just do something creative, and there's no bad ideas, and let's work together on a team, and we can actually make a difference working together.
Yeah, I think that's also really important, is that I have an 11-year-old, and trying to find things that they value outside of a PS5 is always very interesting. It's an activity that you could potentially end up banging your head against a brick wall. And I know that I have friends, for example, who, if they need to, or if they want to discipline their child, or if they want to engage their child, trying to find things for them to care about is actually half the battle. So I love that this program really has them tuning in to find for themselves those things that they care about without the judgment, because, as I mentioned to you last year, I was mentoring a group of school children who were doing an entrepreneurial program through their high school at Haileybury. And again, I found the same thing. One wanted to create a solution around broken lockers in the schoolyard, and then another group wanted to create a device of some description that would help you track down lost animals. And then another one, like the hair thing, another one literally made a scrunchie that didn't lose its form or something. I was like, wow, these are very different. But they loved it. And you think, you know what? Good on you for getting out of your little bubble and finding something that you are, and you said the magic word, passionate about.
Absolutely. And the passion just goes so far. I mean, our primary school winning team last year, they created an app to map out all of the parks across Queensland. And so children who don't have full abilities can find a park that's suitable for them. This is something council doesn't do, but we've got 11-year-olds doing it.
Oh my
How great, right?
They are,
and they have a 50-page business plan to match it as well.
That's, to be honest, I help business owners write business plans, and that's probably more disciplined than most business owners.
So they've got a better one than I do.
My hat already is tipped off to them. That is so phenomenal. And to be able to, to put that together and then be able to go to different shires, and I'm sure that kind of app is transposable no matter where they go. They can use that information to do the same thing in all different shires to help kids everywhere. Absolutely.
And we have some teams, this is their 4th year in the competition, coming back with new ideas each year, and it's just so exciting to see that the scaffold of the program gives them so many options to just explore new ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Oh, can you see why I love this woman? My goodness, she's so bloody cool. But
I do have a cape on the wall as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See, there you go. And she's a superhero. You know it.
That's
All
why I have
right.
capes everywhere, ready to go.
Exactly. What do they say? Some heroes don't wear capes. Look at Jenine. But this is the Value Driven Brand podcast. And Jenine, I know that you have got some amazing insights into what you believe and know creates a value driven brand. And the first one that I want to talk to you about is working above or below the line and knowing where the line is. What does that actually mean for us as business owners, as leaders, as entrepreneurs? What does that mean for us?
For me, it means, and hopefully for you as well, it's about knowing your values, I think, to start with, and then making the decisions from that point. And I think once you're clear what your values are, those decisions become quite easy. And as a business owner and a sort of operator, manager. And I guess to give an example, so running a not-for-profit particularly, I have a lot of very challenging decisions to make, and some of them are ethical issues. For instance, as a not-for-profit, it's very difficult to raise funding. We have a company that comes for us and says, we're a sports betting company and we'd like to donate money to you. Will you take our money? And it's a tough one because we need the money desperately, but, of course, the ethics around that. So we have to do our due diligence and make decisions like that. And that's ultimately up to me. So every decision I make like that, I have about 1,000 people I need to consider. Wow. So I have my board, I have my team, I have all of my tech girls in the program. There's 600 at the moment. I've got 150 mentors, all of their parents, all their teachers, that whole ecosystem of people. If I have to think of all of them each time I make those challenging decisions. And I think that's what I mean about the line. It's when you know where their line is, it does become easier to make those decisions. But I think as business owners, we need to establish what that line is. And once you do, everything else is far easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those day-to-day decisions.
I mean, I have a set of business values, which are very, very closely aligned to my personal values. And I love when I have new or have clients who are new to business. And one of the very first things that we do is we set up their brand vision and their brand and business values. And they always say, well, I don't know what my values are. And I always say to them, it's as simple as this. What are your absolute non-negotiables when it comes to dealing with people? And they're like, absolutely, I don't know.
And that's your line, right? That's your line.
That's your line. And they say, shouldn't it be harder than that? I'm like, no, that's as hard as it needs to get. And they, even if they need further kind of coaxing into understanding what that means. And I say to them, do you want to work with someone who doesn't pay you on time? And they go, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, cool. Do you want to work with people who say they're going to do things but don't do things? And they're like, no, don't want to work in that.
Nothing worse.
I said, okay, so integrity might be a value that you enjoy. And they're like, oh yeah, I like integrity. So
love it.
And it's funny because I think naturally we don't necessarily think like that. We know the behavior that we don't want to deal with, but then to articulate that into a word is sometimes where we kind of become a little bit stuck. But I think, that makes so much sense because now you have those brand values and you can say, right, well, I know what I'm willing to put up with. And that's below the line. And I know what I'm willing to work with. And that's above the line because of those articulated values that I now have. And yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. They are just so important.
They absolutely are. And I did a little Brené Brown exercise and she has a thing where you identify all your values. And I think we had to highlight 2 of them out of a list of, I guess to 10, then you get to 5, then you get to 2. And I think mine were courage and kindness. And I realize that does come across into the not-for-profit as well. And in everything I do, I try to come from a place of kindness but being courageous is really important as well. And just getting up every day and keeping on going, no matter how good or challenging it is on that particular day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because, to be courageous also can be quite scary. And
it's very scary on a daily basis.
You've got to get past the fear of, and it's interesting. I was actually just yesterday doing a live broadcast and we were talking about playing small. And, obviously if you're playing small, you're not being courageous. But then the reality is, if you are not being courageous, are you actually fearful of failing, or are you fearful of being a great success? And the reality is that for many of us, we're actually unconsciously scared shitless of being a great success, because it's more likely that we will.
Absolutely. And someone pointed that out to me probably about 15 years ago, exactly what you said then, in terms of the scared of success. And I've never even considered it before. And the point was, what happens if you are successful? And it's like, that could be pretty good too. What a thought. What a change in mindset. And mindset is everything, right? Mindset is literally everything.
It really is. And just to have things reframed for you, to make you, like you said, you're like, wow, never thought of that. My tiny mind is exploding right now. And it's interesting, because I think there needs to be more of that reframing for people in business and people who are wanting to, help others, but maybe don't quite feel courageous, So I love that.
That's why I'm starting with girls, because I figure if we can get a bit of courage in our young people and help them become critical thinkers and contribute to the world in a really positive way, I think that's a good start if we can do that from a young age.
Yeah. Explain to me, I mean, I know what it means, but explain to us in your line of work, what does critical thinking mean?
So one example of critical thinking would be taking old problems and trying to solve them in new ways with technology. And that opens up so many opportunities. And it's about being curious. It's about being scared of failure, but doing it anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
Is really, really important. And I think maybe you guys mentioned later, but something about faking it. Like, I think we're all making stuff up. We're all just, trying our best, and some of us are better at it than others. And I think just give it a go. And what's the worst that could happen, literally? And I was talking with people yesterday, and they're going, oh, I want to do this presentation, but what if no one turns up? It's like, what if no one turns up? So what? What have you lost? You've literally lost nothing. I had that happen to me last week. No one turned up to a webinar we'd organised with a colleague of mine. I was like, let's do it anyway. So we recorded it, we put it online. It was fun. We wanted to have the conversation, and people will get value out of the recording. And who knows, when people do turn up, what value they'll get. So just give it a go. And I'm a big fan of the 80% rule. Okay, so this is something hopefully you can take back to the office. So 80% rule for me is, as long as you get things 80% right, no one else actually knows about the other 20% that's in your head. Like, it's literally in your head. No one knows. And that's the stuff we worry so much about. Oh, what about that stuff we got wrong? No one knows any of that. So I figured just go by the 80%, get it 80% right, and you're doing like 80% better. So done is better than perfect, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you, like,
80% is good.
I more so now as a consultant than I probably recognized in my career, my corporate career. But I notice now that I come across a lot more perfectionists, and part of me looks at that and I wonder if it's an entrepreneurial kind of trip hazard, where if we are perfectionists, we never have to release something. We never have to take the next step. We never have to actually have that courage, because it's never ready. It's never perfect. So until it's perfect, we're not putting it out there. But to me, I look at that and I go, well, that's just bullshit. You're just hiding.
Totally. Perfectionism is a total myth. You can't have perfectionism. It's actually, I don't think it's attainable at all. I think lower your expectations, because you're always disappointed. If you're a perfectionist, you're always disappointed because you never get it to be perfect. And what a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
Oh my God.
And so I think 80%, get it 80% right, get it out there, and no one else knows about the rest. And that's, I'm a big fan. And people say my work's great, and I figure I do 80%. I'm good with that. Probably a little bit more, but I'm good with that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I even said that the other day. I was doing I was teaching myself how to do automations in ActiveCampaign. And it didn't look the most fun. I know, right? So exciting. But it didn't look the way that I wanted it to look in my head. But I knew that I had challenged myself and was holding myself accountable to produce something by a deadline. And I thought, you know what, I've actually already put this off a week. I'm not going to, and I lead what's called a Momentum Business Accelerator program, which is a group coaching team. But I always feel this pressure that I can't put things off. I can't let resistance win. I can't let myself play small, because I am here being paid by other business owners to push them to do exactly the opposite. So I have to lead by example. And I'd already pushed this back a week, and I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I thought, no, I can't push it back another week. I can't turn up and go, I haven't done it yet. And then they say, well, why not? Because if it was us, you'd be asking questions. And so Absolutely. I sat there the other day and I was like getting it done. And I was like, oh, this is ugly. And I was like, you know what? It's good enough. It's good enough.
Absolutely. Good enough. Fine. I like good enough.
Yeah, good enough is better than not at all.
Completely agree.
Yeah. And, you can always go back and refine it. Just chill a little bit. Just get it done.
So as well.
Don't let resistance
And I think this is where...
win.
This is it. It comes back to understanding your value and having that conviction in your value. I think that's so very important. And it's so difficult to get. And that's why it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people, like the people you have in your program, all working together, because having that community, having that accountability is super important. And that works for me. And because I'm usually kind of alone in this space, I have a team, but it's sort of, I'm kind of on my own. So I need to surround myself with people like me that I can bounce ideas off and feel comfortable and feel accountable with as well. I think it's really important to have that.
It really, really is. And it is a game changer when you find people like that you can put in your circle and use as a sounding board. But also, some of my friends, for example, will say, oh, I'm going to do this. And then 2 months later, I'll be like, so how'd that go? And they're like, oh, I didn't get around to it. And I'm like, why not? You said you were going to do it. Oh, you're not my boss. I'm like, I'm your friend. I'm holding you accountable. Why talk shit? Either do it or don't talk about it. So
I agree. Get stuff done. Yeah. Get stuff done.
My ex-husband used to say, don't try to project manage me. I'm like, well, then get it done. It won't be a problem. But speaking of the magic word conviction, which I am just a massive fan of conviction, because, people, as a woman, right, and I'm sure you could attest to this and witness it being said to others, and probably maybe even experienced it for yourself, but I get told, and especially in past roles, have been told that I'm too emotional. And I reframe that and I say, I'm not emotional, I'm passionate, and I speak with conviction. And that scares some people. So conviction and being evidence-based, talk to me about what that means as far as a value-driven brand goes.
Yeah, I love that so much. And again, it hasn't been easy to get to the point of having conviction, and particularly with the not-for-profit that I run. I've been talking about this for 20 years. I've been talking about the lack of women in tech for 20 years. I've been researching it, running programs for 20 years. I started Tech Girls 8 years ago. And so it's been interesting over time to have to firstly convince people that this is important. I don't have to convince them anymore. They know it's important and why we need women, why we need diversity. So that conversation's changed. But now it's about getting them over the line. Yeah. And to get them over the line and keep convincing them, I need that conviction in myself to be able to stand up and go, whether you believe it or not, it's true. And that's not an easy thing to do. And I was in a situation recently where I was at a conference and my friend was presenting, and it was a bunch of guys. It was a cybersecurity conference, so typical kind of group of people, small business owners mostly. And they had a presentation on stage which talked about how you could literally make more money, like 35% more money in your business if you literally hired a woman on your team. If you just had some kind of diversity on your team, because it's got 10 guys on a team kind of thing. If you have one woman, you can actually earn a lot more money, and the evidence is all there. And so I was chatting to a guy after the conference about it, and everything was all happy and chatty, and then I mentioned this to him, and just the sudden change in him, and he just sort of stood back a little bit and went, oh, like I was questioning him, and I was like, I'm just curious, how many women work for you? And he just went, and I was like, I'm just curious, like it's not a judgment or anything, I'm just curious, considering what she just said, doesn't it make sense that you might want to hire a woman to make more money as a small business owner? Pretty simple no-brainer for me. And his comment back to me was, I don't care if they have a willy or not. Which I hope that's okay to share on here, but I just thought it was such an interesting comment.
This is a sweary podcast. You can say penis.
Awesome. No, he literally said willy, so I'll
Willy.
go with that.
Oh, there you go.
He literally said that. So I just was like, oh, okay, well, that's not really the point. And he goes, we just don't want to give women a job for the sake of being a woman. It's like, we don't want those jobs either. Just saying, we don't want it for the sake of being a woman. Like, but the women are out there, and you could make your products better and make your business better. And anyway, it all kind of went downhill from there. And so I was just curious, really. But he pulls out the card. I've got daughters, I'm married, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't really need to go into all of that. Just curious how many women you got on your staff and that you might consider hiring them.
Yeah.
So I think the conviction part, the interesting thing where I was getting to with that, the conviction was, I don't actually care what you say, to be honest, because it's true. And if you don't believe it, your loss, not mine. And so I guess I hadn't really ever been in that position before where I went, okay, good luck with that. Because I've just felt conviction. I was like, you're missing out. I'm sorry, but you're the one missing out.
Yeah.
And that's your problem and not mine. So I'm doing what I can, but yeah. So I think that's the conviction, is coming from a place of like knowing your values and having the evidence. And I'm a researcher, like I've got all the stats on all of this. I know what the research says. So that for me gives me that, well, here's a paper, here's something you can read, here's a study, here's this, and knowing where to find those and pull them out and say, this is evidence-based. Like I've been researching this for 20 years. I know what the problem is. I know how to fix it. And that's what we're doing. So come along with us for the ride and be part of it or not. And it's a really nice position to finally be in after begging and pleading with people for such a long time. That's like, actually, no, I think I've got it right.
Yeah, I got this. You'll catch up one day.
Totally. It's tough being a pioneer, right?
Not exactly right. Not before losing, countless amounts of money and,
all sorts of craziness. Yeah.
And letting your competitors get in front of you. But that's okay. You do you, boo.
That's right. Yeah.
Goodness me. It's interesting you say that, because I remember, so when I won't mention which business it was, but I was working in a relatively big business when diversity quotas came in.
Uh-huh.
And it was very interesting to see a number of sudden hires of women in high management / executive roles. And I kind of felt sorry for them, because they were amazing, skilled, intelligent, deserving women. And yet, because they were hired 5 seconds after this quota came in, the instant perception was that they were only hired because they were women. And it took, I think it actually did them a disservice, because it took them so much more energy to prove what, if it was a guy, like no one would have batted an eyelid. But these poor women, they really had to claw themselves out of this perception and show people that they were absolutely deserving. And they were absolutely deserving of the role.
They're already doing 200% as it was, but
absolutely.
in terms of what the guys are doing.
So, and it's interesting when one of the roles that I got, and someone said to me, oh, well, so-and-so was applying for that job. You probably just got it because you're a chick. And I went, mate, come and say that to my face. Because I know that I was the most qualified. But then, to have people then to realize then that people were thinking the same thing about my position as well. And I was like, wow, this is savage. So there's just so much more work that needs to be done. But I was talking to a client a little while ago, and they work in marketing, and that too is a predominantly male dominated kind of field, oddly, but they wanted to do their recruitment a little bit different, and they actually got their PA to scrub all of the potential biases or potentials for bias off all of the applications. So they took the applicants' names off, they took any references to their gender off, and they ultimately, I was like, oh my God, that is such a great idea. Because then it doesn't matter.
Did they hire more women in the end?
I never actually got to find out who they hired in the end. But I thought the process itself lends itself to a more fair. And if a guy got the job, then kudos to him, because what that means is that due to the process they went through, that they got the best person for the job. And it doesn't matter if that's a girl or a guy, then, you know, they did probably more than the average business would do to make sure that they got the best person. So that guy that you're talking to, I'd be like, there's so many other ways to skin the snake, mate. You don't have to be like that.
Absolutely. And part of that exact reason, the exact example you gave is partly why I do the work I do at Tech Girls, because if we think about artificial intelligence, and it's now becoming such a big part of our lives, and most big corporates now actually put all their CVs through AI first, as a first sweep. So they'll go through an AI system and pull out who the potential candidates will be. The problem is that there's bias built into those AI systems because they're built by guys. And so the keywords that they're looking for are actually words that guys tend to use rather than words that women tend to use. So women are actually getting left out of that whole, you know, the whole, like, computers are literally blocking women out, not even, you know, people. So it's a serious problem. And you think of the exponential sort of impact of those kinds of technologies. So again, that's what drives me to do what I do, to hopefully get a more balanced workforce, so in STEM, so we can hopefully build better technologies that have less bias and are more representative of our society.
Yeah, no, I love that. That is so cool. So talk to me about the last one that you've sent through. It says, know the problem you're trying to solve and why you genuinely care.
I think that's really been the key of why Tech Girls has been successful. And I'm sure, like, any small businesses have challenges. Added a not-for-profit element to that, it has another level of challenges. We've had a couple of legal cases come our way, which we haven't instigated, others have, for various reasons, which have taken more than 5-6 years of our not-for-profit life. So we've had all of these challenges. And through those, I mean, there's a point where my husband said to me, look, is this worth it?
Yeah.
And I really had to think hard about that. And in the end, it was like, well, I cannot get up and stand up in front of a bunch of girls and tell them they should be strong and courageous and powerful and passionate if I'm not doing that myself. So in the end, it's like, I've got to see this through regardless, because regardless of how it turns out, I have to give it my best shot. And if I do and it doesn't work out, I say, yep, okay, that's right, it's not meant to be, but I have to at least give it my best shot. And I did, and it came out okay in the end, in both instances, but hardest times of my life. But I wouldn't have got through it if I didn't genuinely care. I don't think I would have powered through if I didn't actually really care about what I'm doing. The girls that come as part of our community, they're so important, they're so incredible to see them grow. And now I'm seeing them, we now have girls who've been through our program, they're now going to university, they're now studying STEM at university. One of our girls is doing gender studies at ANU, which I'm so excited about, probably even more than the STEM, to be really honest. Then now one of our girls have come back and she's running workshops, a couple of them running workshops for us in school. So it's just beautiful to see this whole cycle of life, I guess, that's happened. And again, I don't think that would have happened if I didn't genuinely care. And the girl tech girl who's at ANU, she wrote an article for The Guardian recently about her experiences at a private girls' school, and how, like, the Me Too kind of stuff, and how the girls were made to feel because of the male teachers. And it was a really interesting insight that she wrote. And she sent me a private message on Instagram, and I hadn't spoken to her in like 5 years. And she said, because of my program, she had the courage to write that article. And so thank you. And I was just like, wow, this is why I do it. Like, this is why I do it. For all these years later, that girls now feel they have choices in life. And that's really what it's always been about, is about giving girls choices in life.
That is so, so phenomenal. And, you know, so one of the things that I do with my customers, because the majority of my focus and the thing that I care about is customer experience, or you might be able to see behind me, customer, employee, and human experience, which I very cheekily call the joy of sex. But with my customers, I get them, after we've figured out their vision and values, is to do a customer experience journey mapping activity with them. And on a customer experience journey map, what we do is we get them to, through this know, like, trust kind of process of getting to know us, like us, and trust us. And at the point where they trust us, they become advocates, right? And for those who think advocates, basically they want more of us. They love what we do for them so much. They come back more and more, time and time again. And, you know, so you might think, okay, I'm a runner and I love Nike shoes and I only buy Nike shoes. You are an advocate of Nike, right? So they become advocates, and I help the client understand, how are you going to create an advocate in your brand, right? And to do that, you have to be value driven, you have to be trusted, And that is exactly what I hear when you say that. They trust everything that you're doing for them. They feel the genuine care and authenticity in the programs that you run, but not just because they're, that you're excited by STEM, but because you're excited by them.
Absolutely.
And
It's
what
all about
they can deliver in their futures and for the future of others, which is just, makes my heart so happy. All
Me
I
too.
talk
I might
about,
even have a tear.
yeah, all I talk about is customer loyalty, and they are your customers. And ultimately, you're helping them be able to set themselves up to serve their communities. And let's be honest, we're talking technology. Technology is so far reaching that if they have that foundation to start with, the world, the sky is blue for them. And you do that for them.
That's the exciting part.
Oh,
so exciting.
I'm tearing up.
I know, right? Me too. And it's so beautiful when you see it in action. And I don't actually often see it in action because they're all out in schools, they're all doing the work. I see it at the end, and I send them a little video each week, so they see me every week, but I don't see them every week. And we have showcases where we all get together, and so we'll have them in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane in September or late August. So, and anyone's welcome to come along and meet our girls and see the work they've been doing. And that's it. The impact that they're going to have on our lives, we just don't know yet. So one of our girls, she was actually made to do the program as part of her school. It was a subject in school, and she wouldn't have done it otherwise because she wasn't really interested in technology or STEM. She did the program. They actually built a great app to help young people prepare for NAPLAN, which was awesome. And we took them to Silicon Valley. They pitched over there, which we would do every year before our current craziness when we used to travel. And she's now working at Atlassian. So one of the big tech companies, top tech companies in the world, just picked her up. She's one of our tech girls. She would never even done STEM if it wasn't for our program. And she's done a video which says this really clearly and says that our program changed her life. And she's now in her first year at university. She was doing research on breast cancer technology and scanning for breast cancer and improving the technology around that. And so she won like the best undergraduate project in her first year in Australia, and went overseas and pitched that. But she wouldn't have even done STEM if it wasn't for our program. And now she's actually going to revolutionize the way we do breast cancer technology. So
my
amazing,
goodness, right? Look,
kind of cool.
If you've got a daughter, get her.
Yes.
Get her in there.
Please. We would love to.
Now there is actually, speaking of advocacy and getting your daughter into Tech Girls, you've got the Tech Girls competition for Australia, New Zealand coming up, right? The advocacy for critical thinkers.
We're actually in the competition right now.
Oh, we're in it.
Absolutely. So we're in our 5th week of the 12 week, but we run it every year. So you have to come along and see what's happening this year and come to our showcases. And we're calling for judges as well. So any parents out there or any adults at all would like to help and see what some of our girls are producing. It takes 30 minutes online if you want to donate your time. But yeah, we're 5 weeks into the 12-week program at the moment. The girls are head down in research and researching how other people have tried to solve the problem that they're trying to solve at the moment. But we launch on International Women's Day each year on the 8th of March, and then we run in term 2. So by all means, prepare for next year and see what we're doing this year. And let us know in the meantime. Drop us a line on the website, and we can send you a free book. We've got 3 Tech Girls and Superheroes books, and I'll sign your daughter's names and I'll pop them out in the post for you for free. And love to just show them that there are cool people out there doing fun things, and they can be part of the great community of sisterhood we have.
That is so cool. So I will organise to make sure that if that rings any bells for you or tickles your fancy, that you will be able to find those resources and links on valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series. That's valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series. And in there, you will be able to find this recording as well as the audio and all of the ways that you can get in touch with Jenine and find out more about the Tech Girls Movement Foundation. Maybe you're a school. Maybe you think this would just be the bee's